How long do we have?
I've got like 40 minutes on one of these calls. Um,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay, okay.
it's not
Yeah,
it's not a ton of
40
time, but
minutes is 40 minutes is good. 40
yeah,
minutes is great. People
yeah,
start to complain if you take longer than that, really.
yeah, that's right. Well, hey, I'll do like an intro in post, so we can just sort of
Yeah, sure.
ramble and chat.
We,
Um, yeah,
yeah, what will you do? Will you edit it, the final version, or
I can if you want me to. Yeah, if
oh no, it's up to you.
there's something you
It's up to
say
you.
that you wanna
It's
you
not.
want, yeah,
It's totally up to you. It's your thing. I don't care.
okay,
Whatever. Well, I do care a lot, but I don't mind whether you edit it or not. It's
sure,
completely your thing.
okay,
I think as a kind of as a writer, you kind of get to a place where you just want to let go of it. You just want to let go of something and let the publishing company do their thing. Some writers are very, very precious
yeah.
about edits, about this, about that, and the whole confrontation thing they really kind of get into. I just want to leave it behind and let other people do their job and, do whatever you want with it. But the only thing that really did annoy me with the publisher once in that respect was I did this book for Zero Publishing. Do you know Zero, the imprint Zero?
Oh yeah. Okay.
There's
Yep.
yeah, the kind of left-wing intellectual kind
Yep.
of imprint, and so I did a punk anthology for them
Yeah.
called "Punk is Dead, Modernity Killed Every Night," and I co-edited it and I wrote stuff for it. Um, and this was kind of like almost 10 years ago now for the 40th anniversary of punk, and the 50th is coming up, and it's just like, oh. But in any case, the guy, the editor who at Zero, it was always going to be called Modernity Killed Every Night. That
Right.
was the title. And the guy, the editor, said, "No, we're not calling it that. It's people won't know what you're on about. It's too long-winded.
Ah.
It's rubbish. And what we're going to call it is Punk is Dead."
No.
I thought, what? Punk is dead. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? That we've just done a whole book about punk. What are
Yeah.
you at? You're insane. He said, no, we've got to have punk in the title
Yeah.
to kind of sell it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't want that. And he said, well, check your contract. That's what we're having. So
Oh.
there. I was stuck with that kind of rubbish title. But hey, I kind of sneaked the modernity killed in every as a kind of subtitle. So got away with it a little
You
bit,
got
I
something
guess.
in there. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Well, I mean, that's kind of what I was going to ask you was like,
Yeah,
you're talking about sort of like letting things go. Like, how?
yeah.
I mean, this is probably a silly question, but like, how much intention did you have in writing these books, or are these just they kind of just came about, or were you sitting down? It feels like they're just evolving out of your life over time, that you're not sort of like, you know,
Right. That's kind of an interesting question, and I can answer that in a couple of ways, and one of them might be a little bit kind of long-winded.
that's
But
fine.
in any case, I can answer the further it in one way with why I wrote these books and how I wrote these books. And I'm kind of talking about really Looking for a Kiss, the novel, and uh, Disorderly Magic, the kind of modern literature, or some people call it poetry, and I guess it is poetry. And Ripback Sides, which is what I call a situationist drift, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's modern literature. Um, and in regard to one aspect of it, how, why, I was talking to this writer a while ago called David Keenan,
Yep.
who's I guess his kind of most famous book is Memorial Device, but I think his best book is For the Good Times.
Okay.
Um, about Northern Ireland and the other stuff is kind of like batshit crazy. But hey, that's a good thing,
All right.
Um, so I said to him, "Do you know what? Do you ever get this with your books?" I I kind of think back to them and I wonder, how did I write that? I couldn't write it again. I don't know where it came from.
Yep.
I don't know what I was doing, and I don't know why I was doing it.
Mm.
And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he kind of said, "Yeah, it's because it comes from somewhere else. It doesn't come through you, from you. It's kind of channeled through you, and you just put it down." And he comes from a very kind of mystical background, and I do as well to an extent. And I kind of do believe that in a way. But also a couple of weeks ago, I hosted I was the interlocutor between myself and this guy called Bid, who's the lead singer of the Monochrome Set, and he
Yep.
brought out this book of well, the kind of lyrics and bits of memoir. But the most interesting thing about the book was he talked about he had a stroke, a brain aneurysm,
Yep.
a while ago, and as a result of that, well, there are lots of results. Obviously, health-wise, he had to recover, and he was very lucky. He was very lucky to be alive. So there were lots of repercussions, but one repercussion was he kind of through a process he realized that on this is on the same tack, that he was kind of writing stuff his lyrics, and he realized that it wasn't his conscious mind writing it at all. And then this is the kind of result of the stroke, that his realization. And he realized that it was a part of his brain, a part of his subconscious, I guess you could call it. And he kind of named it. He calls it the creature. He's kind of personified it, this
Yeah. Right.
kind of part of him that does all the creative work,
Yeah.
basically. And his function, his conscious function, is just to kind of write it down.
Yeah.
And so it was on the same tack, and he kind of said, I don't know why other writers don't kind of go into this very very much, and then I kind of told him the anecdote, David Keenan said, well, we do. We all kind of talk about it. I think it's a very, very common feeling with writers, that kind of confusion. And you kind of tend to ignore it and get on with it and kind of move on. So that's the answer to one of the questions. And the other answer is, I mean, to talk about rip back sides, maybe the last one,
Yep.
that where that came from really is, well, I wrote a book of modern literature poetry called Silly Magic, and for an indie book, Far West are quite small, but I mean they're cool. They've got a great distribution. They kind of get out pretty much everywhere and sort of worldwide stuff, and they're wonderful like that. But it was for that, it was kind of quite a hit.
Yep.
It kind of we launched it in Brooklyn and London, this gallery in London. That was the only two launches
Yep.
we kind of did really for a while. And do you know what? Overnight after the London launch, it went to number one
Holy crap.
in the Ingram, who are they're a major worldwide
Yep.
publisher, distributor. It went to number one in their poetry charts.
That's great.
Now, how did it do that? I mean, where did that come from? How did it do it? But in any case, however it did it, it was meant to happen, and it still sells now. It's still, 2 years later, it still continues to sell. The UK kind of distributor is always UK and Europe distributors always kind of selling out and restocking and all that kind of business, which is great. So I wanted to kind of like do another book, and I wanted to do a kind of like short book, and I knew that I could kind of do that stuff that I did for Disorderly Magic as kind of effective as it is, and it, you know, it's modern literature, and it kind of works. I think it kind of, perhaps you do as well. I don't know, and it kind of really clicks. And I knew that I could do it again, or I knew that whatever is channeled through me, I could rechannel that material, which is basically about urban magic. It's about your hauntings. It's about your ghosts. It's about going back to the cities, and it's about going back to your roots and finding the hauntings there
Yeah.
and using them. And I knew that I could repeat that. Because there's plenty more where that came from, basically. There's lots of hauntings, lots of magic, I guess. But I didn't want to. I kind of thought it's too easy, and repeating repeating a success formula, it always kind of gets really boring. And and I mean, frankly, I mean, I don't do this any of this creative work really for the money. So I don't need to do this at all. I don't need to do this as a job, and I don't need to repeat any kind of success. And somebody asked the other day, you know, well, what is success? What? And I think that when you get to a kind of certain age, success basically means that you're able to do exactly what you want to do. You can live your life how you want to live your life. And I think I'm kind of doing that. So I kind of thought, well, I'm not I am going to just do what I want, and I did rip back sides, and I did rip back sides because I mean to kind of describe it, it's an art house book. It's a book of fragments, and it's conceptual, but it's also poetic, and it mixes a hell of a lot of ideas, and it works on a lot of different levels. And it's about urbanity, and it's about traveling. It's a situationist travelogue, and I'll kind of get to that. And the reason I kind of wrote it in that style, and I wrote it full stop, is really it started from when I was writing, listening to loads of Brian Eno ambient
All
music,
right.
really,
Yeah, yeah.
which was, I mean, you know, he's a guy who's all about textures and using melodic fragments and layering them constantly, and to form a constantly evolving soundscape, or what, a landscape. And I kind of thought, well, wouldn't it be good to actually recreate um, that that idea, that method of evolving landscapes, and kind of exploring that idea of less is more
Yep.
in terms of literature.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote the book in the format, in the style that I did, which is basically fragments, and kind of reconnect connecting them, reconstructing them, and then kind of stylistically arranging them in my mind and then on paper as parts of postcards
Okay.
that were never sent, messages on postcards. So they're really kind of messages from around the world, all the kind of cities that I've traveled around, back to myself from the past.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, well, nobody's ever done it before, and I thought it kind of, you know, for me it kind of works. And so I did that, and I mean, you know, it's been okay. I mean, people Again, the distributor in the UK, Europe, has kind of sold out of books and had to restock and all that. So I guess that people who kind of understand the appeal of kind of art house books. I mean, what do you think of it? Do you
Yeah,
kind
I
of
I mean it resonates. Like when I was when I came across you for the first time,
yeah,
I was just kind of digging around online. I knew that I was probably
yeah,
gonna look at a few different books that I'd been informed by for the purposes of what I'm working on because I'm trying to put this memoir together with my mom and sort of
right, right,
guide her
right,
through telling her own story. And I was trying to come up with like ways to make it sort of easy. And vignettes and fragments were a big thought, a big thing that I wanted to consider and include. And
sure,
I was just kind of looking all over the place. I've been really in love with Jim Carroll's writing, like that had informed a lot of my work. And
right, right,
just through online, I came across you and I saw what you were doing, and yeah,
right,
I just loved it.
yeah,
Um,
great,
and yeah, it just sort of yeah, it's everything I like really. And I think also um, w I was talking to Mum about Patrick Modiano. We looked at Pedigree and which is like a memoir of his, and there's a lot of
right,
there's a lot of thematically you're talking about hauntings, and it's like
yeah,
the interior stuff that haunts you like on the emotional level, but then it's also baked into geography and place as well. And I mean, whether it's Europe or wherever you happen to be, and you know
sure.
yeah, you definitely are sort of resonating in that kind of, I don't know, I was just picking up on that, and yeah, just
Great.
really enjoyed it.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I'm glad that you have, and long may it last. I mean, the whole idea of it, as well, is underpinned by that whole, and this is why I call it a situationist travelogue,
Yep.
which is basically the idea of something called the drift or the derive, which perhaps you're familiar with. It's basically a method that the situationists used as part yeah as part of their methodology. I don't know if you know much about
No,
the
I don't.
situationists, or
I was
you've come
curious for
across
you
them.
to, yeah, to expand on that a bit.
Well, they came to the fore really in the late 60s, in 1968,
Hmm.
during the Troubles in
Okay.
France in 1968, and they were the kind of poetic, political, theoretical underpinning to the people who threw the stones on the streets, and that basically was because they had such fantastic slogans and they had such fantastic artwork, including "Under the Pavement Lies the Beach," which is a subtitle of Rip Back Sides. Really, I mean, Rip Back Sides is postcards from beneath the pavement.
Yeah.
That's me. Postcards from beneath the pavement, and that refers to the Situationists,
Okay.
and they were informed originally by people called the Frankfurt School, who
Oh yeah.
who included people like Theodor Adorno,
Yeah.
who kind of found himself. He was in Nazi Germany and escaped. And he found himself living in America. Um, and he found himself kind of feeling roughly the same kind of things as he did back in Germany.
Mm.
And he analyzed why. And the Frankfurt School were a group of theoreticians who were the first people to bring to the fore the idea that consumerism is a barbarous affront to the soul. It's the I mean, obviously they were Marxists, and that, but they took that element of Marxism and ran with it, and so did the Situationists. But they also grew out of an art movement called the Letterists, and one of their ways of working was something called the Derive, which is basically a rapid transit through varied ambiances, very urban ambiances, to study the terrain of the city and its emotional disorientations. And they felt that by doing this, um, they could it would lead to the potential creation of situations, and that's where they get their name from, the Situationists. And they felt that constructing situations would disrupt the passive consumption of life, where, leisure isn't really leisure. It's just passive consumerism to deaden the mind and to give you a little bit of rest to perhaps kind of do more work. And the Situationists, by constructing these Situationists based on the Derive, they took what could seemingly be an ordinary walk or a drift, which is what Derive means. And they took it away from the kind of twin poles of consumer capitalism, which is basically leisure and work. The Derive did not relate to either of those two ideological standpoints. And it was something else. It was something authentic, and it was something participatory, and there was something had to be at stake, and that could be your very soul. It could be it's something that would kind of mean something that would mean something.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I felt about my travels and how I explored my travels, and the world, the urban Berlin 1980s, or the New York of the same era, and the Los Angeles of that time, and maybe Francoist Spain in Barcelona, and then going through the years, and London as well, although I tackled that in a slightly different way. And that's exactly why it's a situationist travelogue, and what it means, and I think what was at stake for me in writing that. Well, it could have been my very soul, but it could also have been my reputation. People might not
Right.
have got it. You kind of. I mean, but people like writers to write the same thing. They
Yeah.
like they like if Jack Kerouac writes on the road, or just keep writing on the road.
Yeah.
Just call it On the Road Part Two, Three, Four, Five, Six, and people will keep buying it, and they feel kind of affronted when writers don't. When they kind of do different things. They call them genre writers. Confuses people. I mean, I think Chris Kraus mentioned. Have you read the new
Y-
Chris Kraus book
I
at
haven't
all?
read it yet, but you make reference to is it After Kathy Acker? I love that book, and
Yeah.
yeah, I like a lot of the references made in the foreword and in your introduction as well. Like there's a
Yeah.
bunch of names that yeah.
I like lists. I like lists
Yeah.
of things of people. I mean, I love Substacks, where you kind of get this sort of whoever it is out in LA, you don't even know their names. Well, you know their names, but you're not going to remember their names. The
Yeah.
names aren't important. But they write down lists of, kind of what they've done that day and what, and they're fantastic.
Nice.
They're really interesting. It doesn't matter that I don't kind of know these people, and that's not the important thing. The list is the of importance in in itself. But Chris Kraus mentions in that new book really because she's all about autofiction.
Yeah.
Although I can't guess we all are in one way or another. I mean, I think all fiction is basically, in the end, it kind of comes down to a fiction of the self, whichever way you want to kind of write it. But Chris Kraus mentions that she brought one book out and people didn't read it or didn't buy it because it was different than
Yeah.
her usual kind of auto fiction. And but she said, "Oh, I still believe in it," and I can, and I feel the same kind of way about Rip Back Sides. Not that people aren't buying it or haven't read it actually. So, but that was definitely a danger, and that was definitely at stake. And so, what was at stake was my kind of my reputation in the end. But so that was quite interesting. And the interesting thing, I guess, is that people they kind of ask me, "What did you write it in these kind of short postcardy in that kind of way?" Because you're writing it for the Gen Z generation, because they can only read stuff that's on the phone. They
Right.
don't read books anymore. They don't read kind of novels, and so they're really sort of bad and terrible. And so, did you kind of capitalize on that? And I kind of never really thought about it before, but I kind of did think about it a little
Yeah.
bit. And I mean, I didn't do it. I didn't do that, and I didn't even do that subconsciously. But what it did kind of lead me to the avenue that it led me down was that kind of tension between the idea of concentration and distraction. Um, and there's too many distractions for people to read books, so they're going to be reading their phones, and that's all. And I kind of came to the conclusion that, well, there's always an idealized past where people think that
Yeah.
everything was perfect, and that, this idealized past and former generations, everybody just kind of read books and everybody was very, very, very attentive. And now the Gen Z people are so stupid, so thick, because all they can do is write lists on Substacks and look at their phones. But then I kind of thought, well, our attention spans, they've always been structured by a wider process, and that technology, in fact, has always had an impact
Yeah.
on our attention spans, and it's no kind of bad thing, and it's just a fact of life. I mean, the novel was a technological advance that had an impact on our attention span. Reading glasses were a form of technology that
Yeah.
affected
I mean, you forget that writing itself is a technology. It's a communications technology. I mean, it's always going
compute,
to
compute,
change.
compute, computers. And you know what? The more I kind of looked into it, I kind of realized, in a kind of Marxist sort of way, is that the whole idea of concentration lauded
Mm.
as something to hold up and to admire, it only came to the fore really after the Industrial Revolution when it became attention, it became an important part of the ideology of work discipline. And I kind of thought, well, if you look at it in that context, distraction could even be seen as a radical alternative
Well,
to the Puritan the Puritan work ethic, which is kind of interesting,
well,
really. And
distraction.
the what?
Yeah, sorry. No, I was just going to pick up on that. Like distraction is, it can be a form of play. It's sort of a bit anarchic.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and I sort of like, just because I'm conscious of time,
yeah.
I felt like I feel like what Far West Press have been doing is great. Like these,
Far West, yeah.
these pieces, these small books, and
Yeah. Well,
it's great.
they're kind of Travelers series books. Do you remember those kind of Green Travelers
Yeah,
series books that the guy in Paris brought out, and it was kind of like people like Beckett, and he published those, and he carried the beat characters he published. And what attracted me to Far West was that they were that kind of format. They were the size of pulp novels that used to be sold at railway
yeah.
stations because they could kind of fit easily into your jacket pocket, and they were the size of the Travelers series produced by the Beat and Pre-Beat publisher. I forget his name, Girondas maybe,
Oh,
out
yeah,
in
yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Paris. Right, so he bought out Dessard and all those kind of people. So I loved it. I thought that's a fantastic idea, and I thought that this book, because it is a travel book, that's you could travel, you could kind of take it with you, and it kind of fits in your bag quite nicely, and it's great. But the other thing that I discovered whilst thinking about the idea of attention distraction, while we're kind of on it, the last thing is that did you know that in the 16th century, the people that could read books, which they weren't that many really, but I mean, the people that could, they didn't read them from cover to cover.
Mm.
It has been discovered. What they kind of read them for was to cherry pick ideas and to use things that they could apparently cut and paste into their own works, which is kind of weird because it's that kind of appropriation.
Yeah.
It's very modern. It's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
absolutely.
it's kind of exactly what Kathy Acker is doing in her work. And this is how people started reading. They kind of thought, well, we're not going to read the whole book because it's kind of like a
Yeah.
stupid waste of time because most of it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm just going to read, I'm going to flick through, come to the good bits. I'm going to take them, I'm going to run with them, and I'm going to, and by doing so, you kind of transform them into your own work because it's not going to stay the same, even if you take somebody's kind of like words exactly and then kind of reuse them, the context is totally different and it's going to be a totally different thing, which is what Kathy Acker did and what she was kind of attacked for. But
Yeah.
I've always thought that she was completely on
Yeah.
the right track, actually. She's very honest. I mean, you can't avoid it. I mean, writers, they always say, and they have always said, read. It's the only thing that will kind of like make you write. And what do you do when you get read? You get other people's ideas and you get other people's kind of styles and you take it on board and you kind of like somehow alchemize it. You kind of turn that into something else and kind of put it down. It's the same process,
Yeah.
but yeah. So and the novel when it first came about before the Industrial Revolution, people were worried because they thought it was that kind of immersive reading was a distraction from the real world. So it kind of things
Yeah.
go round and
Yeah.
round and
Yeah.
round, So it's a crazy world of ripped backsides, which is all about play. It's all about distraction. It's all about travel. It's all about situations and emotional disorientations and fathoming them and using them to travel on, to move forward.
I think
So, what do you
that's
think about that as a party political broadcast?
I think that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. As I say, I'll cut this together. I'll do a little intro and a little
Oh
outro.
yeah,
All right, mate.
fantastic. Oh, really nice talking to you.
Nice to meet you. Take
Take
care.
care. Have a
Bye.
good night.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.